welcome back to my channel. So today I am finally going to show you guys how to do the triangle end or teardrop loop for your alpha bracelets. This video has been so highly requested, so let's just go ahead and get right into the video. Alright, so this is the pattern that I'm going to be making in this video. It's number 73470 if you're interested. However, I'm not going to make this entire thing because it's just a little bit too big for me, so I'm actually going to cut the words off. So I'm only going to be making like the people. And from top to right here is going to be 23 strings. So 23 divided by 2 is going to be 11.5, but obviously I can't have 0.5 of like a full string, so I'm going to cut 11 bass strings, and then I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do with this 0.5 in just a second. Obviously if your number of bass strings is an even number, if it's 22, then you would just cut 11 strings and you'd be good to go. But if it's an odd number, I'm going to show you guys what you're going to have to do to get that 0.5. So here I have my 11 bass strings. I'm using this really pretty like grayish blue color. So I have 11 bass strings here, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is fold them in half, have the ends meet on one side, and then the other side is going to be this little loop. You're going to want to cut your strings a tiny bit longer than like you normally would for like a keychain of whatever size you're making or whatever bracelet you're making, because it will take a little bit of string to actually make the knots in the triangle end. So just a little bit longer. You don't need to go too overboard, you know, just like an inch or two. Should be fine. And I'm going to be using the exact same color for my background color, so it might be a little bit confusing, but I'll try to make it clear to you guys. So right now, folded in half, I have 22 bass strings, but I need to get to 23. So what I'm going to do is, using my entire cluster of my background string, I'm going to pull out enough string to reach the end of my bass string bundle, and then I have my cluster at the top here. And then from here, I'm going to start making the stitched loop, and then that basically is how I get my extra string. So now I have 23. Now, if you had 22 and you only needed 22, you still have to obviously add in your background color. So what you would do is, instead of making this string extra long, you would just make it extra short, and then you can start doing your stitched loop from here. And then this little tail you can just snip off throughout the bracelet. I try my best to like kind of stitch this thread into the bracelet and then I cut it off. So yeah, that's what you would do if it was an even number of strings, but if it's an odd number, it works out a little bit better and you just do this. Obviously, if your background color is different than your bass string color, then you'll definitely see this string at the end of your bracelet and also at the beginning. All right, so from here, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some tape. And I'm just lining up my background color with my bass strings, and I'm gonna kind of just mark out how big I need the loop to be. Your loops actually don't need to be as big with doing the triangle ends, because the triangle part will add length to the loop. So normally I would make the loop like this big, but you only need to make it about that big for it to actually work. The more strings, the bigger you might want it, but yeah, you don't really need the loop to be as big, the stitched part, because the triangle will add length to it. Obviously you'll kind of understand this more once you kind of start doing it, and it'll make a little bit more sense to you. So from here, I'm just going to start doing my stitched loop. I'm not going to do like an in-depth tutorial on how to do that because I have videos on it already, and I'm sure you guys are already experts at doing it. So if you don't know how to do this, I will link a video down below on how to do this, so you can reference that video if you need to. But yeah, from here, just go ahead and make your stitched loop. Alright, so once you get it to a length you like, you can go ahead and stop doing it. This is kind of how big mine is. That should be perfect. So now we're going to actually do the triangle portion of the bracelet. So you're actually going to leave your stitched loop straight like this, and then you're just going to pick either side. So obviously you have the stitched part, and then you have loose strings and then loose strings. So you're just going to pick one side. I'm just going to move my tape down, and you're going to tape down the stitched part, and you have just your loose strings hanging out. So from here, I'm gonna go ahead and just do the best I can to split these in half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I have 5 bass strings on each side. The most important thing to remember when doing this is that whatever you do to one side, do the exact same thing to the other side and the other side over here as well. So basically what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take 1/2 of the bundle of strings. I'm gonna start with my strings on the left, and I'm just going to pull out a string. This bundle has my background color in it, so just make sure you're not pulling out this string quite yet. We're gonna do that string last. And I'm just gonna take it, and I'm going to be doing a backward, forward knot on the left side. Now, the way I think of it, I don't really get too technical with like the backwards and the forwards because it's kind of confusing sometimes. So what I think of it as is I have to go out, and then I have to bring my string back in. Okay, let me zoom out so you guys can probably see a little bit better. So what I kind of think of it more as is I'm taking my string and I have to bring it outside, but then I have to bring it back inside. So that might help you guys a little bit better than whether it's a backward forward or a forward backward, but if it's easier for you to understand what knot you're doing, then on the left side we're going to be doing backward forward knots. And I'm doing this all the way down my line of strings, and you're kind of creating this like diagonal line of knots. So now I've done all the knots, and the last string that I have left is like my background color. You want to make sure that you don't use this for any of these knots. Now we're going to go to the right side and grab our bundle of strings. This time we're going to do a forward backward knot on every string. So if you can't tell what I'm doing a knot, and then I'm leaving the string I did a knot with out, and then I'm just continuing to do my knots with the rest of my strings in my bundle. Or you can again think of it as going back out and then bringing your string back in, just like that. All right, so there we have it. I have my rows of knots here, and they're just kind of all these strings in the middle. All right, so now from here, we're gonna start making the triangle part. So you're gonna just separate your strings down the middle like so, and then just take your very 2 innermost strings. And you can either do, oh wait, I didn't grab my innermost string. They got all tangled. Okay, there's my innermost string. So I have my 2 innermost strings right here. So you can either do a forward or backward knot, whichever your little heart desires, but whichever one you do, you're gonna have to do for the whole thing. So I'm gonna just do a backward knot. So I'm gonna do a backward knot to connect these 2 strings. And I'm gonna take my same string, and then I'm gonna go down the rest of this line of strings and keep doing backward knots all the way down. It's a little bit hard to see because it's kind of tight in this area, and like the strings are all the same color, so it's a little hard to see what's happening, but I hope that this is easy to see for you guys. Alright, so I just did it all the way down. Some people will connect these last 2 strings, but the way that I do it is I don't do any knots over the last string. You can kind of play around with it. Once you start doing this more, you'll kind of get the hang of it better and you'll kind of figure out a style that you like doing, but that's kind of just how I do it. So then I'm gonna go back up and split my strings in half again, just like so, and then I'm gonna go back over, grab my 2 innermost strings, and then I'm gonna keep doing backward knots as well. So as you can see, this was my last knot in the second row of knots that I did, and I'm not going to connect any strings with the first row, the last knot that I did, if that makes sense. So you can, so most people will just leave out 1 string and then just connect it like this. I just don't like how that looks, so I just leave the entire last knot out, and then this knot here, I just leave that alone, and that's the end of that row, if that makes any sense. Okay, again, I'm gonna just repeat the same process, grabbing my 2 innermost middle strings and then just doing a line of backward knots all the way down. All right, and then I'm not doing any knots over the last knot that I did, so you can see. Okay, and I'm gonna just repeat this whole process until I get to the last string. And there we have it. There's pretty much our triangle, so that's what it looks like. So I didn't actually end up stitching my background cluster at all. It's this string here, and I didn't do any knots with that, so you can just leave that how it is. So you can really play around with this, and you can really keep doing knots and trying to just get it how you like it. But this is just how I like to do my triangles. It's gonna be really different for everyone depending on how many base strings you have, whether it's an even number or an odd number. So there we have it. So now we're gonna do the exact same process on the other side. So you can see I have 1 triangle on this side, then the other side of my stitched loop is just my open strings. So it's, again, just the same process, but this time I don't have my background cluster in this, so you don't have to like watch out for that. So yeah, I'm gonna just be repeating the exact same process that I did on the other side, so I'm not gonna like go super in depth with this. You guys can just rewind the video if you need to see it again, but it's pretty straightforward. All right, so there is the other side of my triangle and done. So yeah, that's basically all there is to doing this start. So from here, you just bend it into place and you just line it up how you like it. And then I just put a piece of tape down on top of it to hold it in place. So then from here, you can just go ahead and start your bracelet. So at this end, I have my little cluster of my background string, and your base strings are nice and lined up in a nice straight line, so you can just go ahead and start making your bracelet. And now it is all connected by the first row, as you can see here. But that is basically how you guys do this teardrop loop for alphas, triangle ends for alphas, whatever you want to call it. I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them down below and I'll be happy to answer them for you. All right, thank you guys for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.